Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second week of the training. This is TPD Introductory module that is being done by the Kenya Education Management Institute. My name is Elvis, and I work for Kemi. Thank you very much for joining us. This is for Kiambu County. Please feel welcome. We shall begin at 5:50. I can already see some of our facilitators have already with us here. I've seen Madam Emily, who is here with us. Karibu sana. And let us wait for more of you people to come in. Thank you.
Elvis?
Yes, madam?
Oh, my screen is okay?
You're okay. You're good to go. We're waiting for you.
Yeah, I think I'm good to start.
Yes. Please do.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of us for the second week training. It's been a weekend, let's call it a long one from Friday evening up to Monday evening. At least we have relaxed from the training and we are ready to start on our second week of training. When we mention the second week, it's like we are doing Monday every day, Tuesday every day, up to Friday. But we know the content that we have is for 3 days. And that is what we make our second week. So I welcome all of you. Let's be on a high gear this time. I think last week there was a lot of introductions. We didn't know what to expect, but at least now we know the direction to go. So let's participate. Let's also call for calmness, especially with what is expected of us as we carry on the meeting. Remember the etiquettes that we gave you at the starting of the meeting. And I know Madam Grace last week was amused by, I think, some of the presentations that were on our cameras and all on our video activity, where she could see some people. And I think she commented on a number of activities. So let us maintain that etiquette where we are able to flow together and we keep things going well. So welcome. As usual, I would want us to call on one person to give a word of prayer. It's not easy. God has been with us the whole of the weekend. I'm sure we have no casualties. We have no people who have fallen out of the TPD. And let's keep on joining, because I can see as per now we are 66, but I know we'll get there over 200 as usual. So Elvis, if there is one raising hand, kindly check on those that are raising their hands, and then we can have a prayer.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to pray for us, please unmute yourself and then we can pray.
Okay, let's pray. Can I pray in Swahili?
Go ahead.
Baba mtakatifu, tunakushukuru, asante kwa nafasi iliyo njema. Umekuwa pamoja nasi siku nzima na hata wikendi nzima mpaka wakati huu. Tunapoendelea kujifunza masomo haya, tunakualika uwe pamoja nasi, tusaidie kuelewa na kuyatia katika kumbukizi. Ubariki kazi ya walimu pamoja na sisi ambao tunasikiza hii kazi, tupate neema yako. Na mwisho wa darasa la leo, tunaomba ufanisi mkubwa katika maisha yetu. Ni tumeomba tukiamini katika Kristo aliye Bwana Mwokozi wetu. Amen.
Thank you so much for that introductory prayer. Indeed, we are under the grace, mercy, and the goodness of the Lord. And we are happy. Thank you so much for presenting a prayer. Today, we may not have some time for Mentimeter or Kahoot, but I think during our next class, we'll be at a position to do the elevation. But meanwhile, because we have a chat area that we can revise over what we went through last time, it is still okay. I think we can use our charts and we can have the questions, the answers flowing, and I'll be reading as usual. And I believe if Madam Grace will be here, she will also, and I know she is, and Elvis will help appropriately. And I start by this question. Basic Education Curriculum Framework guides implementation of CBC in Kenya. Identify the areas that it addresses. I hope you've gotten me right. I'm saying that basic education curriculum framework guides implementation of competency-based curriculum in Kenya. The question is, identify the areas that it addresses. Which areas are addressed kindly? Let's jog our minds. Let's identify those areas. Which areas does it address? It is anchored of the national goals. Very good. Vision and mission is part of it, but still we are missing, we are not there. Which areas? One is vision and mission statements. The pillars. I don't know whether there is one who has noted the pillars of basic education curriculum framework. Yes, I can see vision and mission. I can see there Vision 2030. Vision 2030 is an anchor. Then somebody is writing the core competences. Very nice. Very nice. Assessing competency. Core competences, yes. There are only 5 main areas. The core competences. Someone has written vision and mission statements. The core values. These are the core competencies. Citizenship. No. Organization of basic education. That's what I was looking for. In fact, for those that have responded, we have already responded on the 5 of them. Let me just mention them. We had vision and mission statements. It's good to note them, and then you refer to them so that as you go to the Kemi virtual campus, you can easily get there and get what you want. Then we have the national goals of education. We have the pillars of basic education curriculum framework, the core competences, and organization of basic education. Those are the 5, mostly the 5 key areas. Let's note also the characteristics of CBC. We are on the second question, the characteristics of CBC. It's learner-centered. Very nice. It's skill-oriented. It's child-centered learning. Very good. It's objective. It is not subjective. The core values. It is hands-on. Let's continue to chat. I'm asking the characteristics of CBC. I think we'll find ourselves repeating almost the same things. It's discovery-based creativity, focuses on acquisition of competences. It's true. It's learner need. It's learner-centered. Teacher is only a guide. Kindly check, we are evolving. Since the time we started talking of CBC, we are revolving around the same thing because these are the concepts that we want you to acquire and to get and to run with them because it's the way to go. Development of learners' activity, it is flexible. How is it flexible? Flexibility is relative. Kindly break that a bit. It's lifelong education. It's learner-friendly. Life skills encourages discovery. It's true. The teacher is mostly a guide. I think the percentage of it is that the learner is doing and enhances parent involvement. That means continuous learner involvement until mastery, because there is an aspect of step by step. It is also task-based. Task-based is repeated. It's collaborative because the learners are doing together. Other times they are doing when they are even in pairs. It fosters 21st century skills, parental involvement, use of a variety of instructional strategies. I expect that. Learner demonstrates mastery. Very nice. It's activity-based. Yes, nurtures talents. Learner demonstrates a variety of competences, embraces ICT. Just like you find our learning has changed, we are so much on, our introductory module is so much on ICT. Learner uses more senses. Learner uses more senses. It's the same inquiry-based. Yes. It calls for a lot of critical thinking and creativity. Even when you give a comprehension to a learner, you expect the learner not just to base the answers on the aspect of knowledge. Yes, I think we can move on to another question. Probably it will be our very last question, and then we can start. Identify the 7 core competencies. Identify the 7 core competencies of the basic education curriculum framework. Which are the core competencies? Let's remind ourselves. Self-efficacy, communication and collaboration, very good. Digital literacy, yes. Communication and collaboration, yes, somebody, they are very rich, critical thinking and creativity. Remember, we want our learners to develop critical thinking, not a state where the teacher is the guide and the learners are just listening and discussions are going on, and you know, the methods, the common methods that we use where the learner is not involved. Yes, citizenship, digital literacy, learning to learn, critical thinking, responsibilities. That means in the course of doing activities, there are responsibilities. Can see learning to learn. Because we are many, that means there is that tendency of repeating citizenship. But we know there are 7 competencies. Yes, self-efficacy, cooperation, creative thinking. Great, we are moving well. It's like we have answered almost all of them, but I'm saying because we are many, that is why we are having a repeat. Let each and every one of us have a taste of the 7 competencies, the core competencies that we have. Then we can move on to the other question. I think our very last question. Which are the 3 pillars that support basic education? The 3 pillars that support basic education. We have the 3 pillars. There are 3 main pillars that support. It is not digital learning. Let's get out of that and go to the other question. The 3 important pillars. The 3 important pillars. Some are still on the core competencies. I can see we are still in our very, very first question. Basic education curriculum framework, vision and mission are supported by 3 important pillars. The vision and mission supported by the 3 important pillars, which are these guiding pillars. We have the guiding principles. I think we are repeating, we are still answering the very first question or the second question that I inquired from you. So we have the guiding principles. At least there is the clue, the guiding principles. Yes, we have value-based education. Values are very key. So it's good also to get to see that education, the curriculum that we've been, how have the values been inculcated? Have we really been examples? So we are saying with competency-based curriculum, we cannot avoid the value-based education, because even in our learning areas, let me call them the subjects or the learning areas, that is where we promote. In every presentation that you make in class, we have to promote value-based education. Then we have the guiding principles and then theoretical approaches. I can see still answers, we are 163, so we can have as many as 163. But those are the 3, and you've noted them: value-based education, the guiding principles, and then the theoretical approaches. And then with that, I think we should be Can see the sharing is still going on the chat, but with that, we should be able to start on our next work for today. So you'll allow me to get my clip there so that we continue with the work for today. So we are there, and we are saying that we are dealing with learner-centered strategies. So we are on the introduction, and we are dealing with the learner-centered approaches. And we are not new to the learner-centered approaches, because in our current curriculum, there are various approaches that we portray in the course of passing on our information to our learners. And this particular part will give us the learner-centered approaches, because they are the ones that we want to make sure that you get, because these are the ones that will normally be used, or they are being used in the competency-based curriculum. And the learner-centered approaches, of course, are where we recognize that every learner is a unique learner. If we go to class with that mind, where a learner is unique, and so we are treating learners differently, then we'll be able to handle them. So a learner-centered approach is the acknowledgement of the diversity. It is the acknowledgement of the diversity among learners, that the learners that we have in class, we have about probably 20 learners in a class, 40 learners in a class, and these learners are very different, and that we know from our teaching. It's only that the current curriculum, or the curriculum that we have had, I think, since 1985, has not addressed the needs of the learners. Teachers need to understand, we need to know that learners are unique, and that one we know. And that learners access, or they get information in a different way. If, let's say, I present a comprehension and tell my learners, to read and answer some questions, or even I ask a question from the learner, and they are supposed to write that answer for me, they will write very differently. If you happen to go around the class reading the answers that are presented, you'll get that their expression is very different. There is that answer that you have in mind that you want, but you'll get there are those that are far away from getting to that particular answer that you expect, and the answer that is within that comprehension. So learners are unique, and that they access and process information and apply it very differently. So they apply in their different ways, in the way they perceive, in the way they get their mind perceive whatever has been presented to them. And it involves many varied, intentionally designed instructions, experiences, provide multiple ways of learners to access, process, interpret, and apply information. So because we are handling different learners with different thoughts, anytime you present something to them, as I'm saying, and you don't even tell them to write, ask them go to about 5 learners and ask them questions. You'll get that their answers, their expressions are very different, because they pick the information differently, they perceive it differently. Then in the course of perceiving and processing, they pass the information, and it will be very different. And it is within the class that you get, there are some that I will say they are very sharp. We have the gifted and talented. We'll get the time takers. Even when you ask that question, somebody will take you'll keep on saying someone else as we give this particular learner time. Okay, there is an activity there on learner-centered strategies. That is KWL. Let us look at what you know and what you want to learn about learner-centered strategies. Kindly, what do you know about learner-centered Learner-Centered Strategist. And as usual, we can respond through our chats. Let us look at what you know about the Learner-Centered Strategist. Let me open. I was waiting for Madam Grace to respond on the other part. It's hands-on, it's time-consuming. Learners are independent. Yes, learners are independent. It's interesting since learners are involved. Learners to perform tasks guided by the teacher. True. Child is the core business in learning. It enhances knowledge acquisition. It is true because the learner is being guided. Learner enjoy learning. You know, the learner is not big bogged with so many questions to answer. Then lesson plan should have that one I've lost. It leads to discovery, yes, on the side of the learners. Learner is fully involved. Exploration is done. I think someone is saying where exploration is allowed. Teacher guide but learn. That one I've lost. It's interesting. Enhances learner creativity. Yes, let's continue to have the charts coming. Interesting, activities oriented. Lesson is interesting. The learner is our main focus, yes. And like the other where the teacher or the learners are focusing on the teacher, focuses on learners' needs. Yes, because you have to treat every learner as an individual. It gives room for creativity and guidance by the teacher. It is interactive. Remember, the learners are cooperating most of the times in groups. Captures learners' thoughts. Learners are involved on their learning holistic approach. Yes, it is indeed holistic. Involves the learner more. Individual attention. Learner is observed as they work. Yes, the teacher has a role to do that. Develops leadership skills. Yes, in the course of this, you are able to tell the learner who can lead others. It just comes automatically in the course of your assessment of the learner's work or in guidance. Values the learner. The learner is valued. Less tiresome, it is true, but it's still involving on the side of the teacher because the teacher has also to prepare, has to be ahead, to take care of the varied learners. I think we can move on to our next part, move on to the next on what we want to learn about learner-centered strategies, promote cooperative learning, pedagogical methods, yes, how to apply in learning, how it can be effectively implemented in CBC, yes, all these learner-centered methods, how to manage time allocated, what to know how to deliver. I would like to know how to apply this in maths. Must be a maths teacher. How to handle weak students. How to implement in CBC. How to integrate. How to manage time as students get involved. Use it and save on time. Assessment of students. We learn all those how to handle a lunch class. We know our classes are really lunch, where I don't have the skills. Example, music, how do I deliver? You deliver that which is yours. Making learners express themselves, how to cater for weak learners, yes, it's there. How to handle hyperactive pupils, or how to handle the gifted and talented in class, whom we have always had. And sometimes we have mistaken them as being rude in class and not really obeying what the teacher says. How to use ICT, integrating ICT in teaching/learning. Assessing individual learners, that is what Mary Thua want to know. How to make learning interactive, how to handle below average learners, that is really recurring. How to handle time takers, still the same. The best way to form the groups, that is Josephine. Yes, because Many a times we have put learners who do very well in class together. Parents cooperation, incorporate ICT in teaching. Yeah, I think we can move on. I think we can stop our chat and continue. How learners learn. That is Owen Garner's multiple intelligence theory. So we have a theory that we call the multiple intelligence theory. And the person behind the multiple intelligence theory is Howard Gardner.
May I introduce the issue of this theory?
Yes, yes, please.
Within a minute.
Yes, please.
Good evening to all of us. I believe in our recap, we have tried to identify the 3 pillars, although we have not really discussed them. And one of them was the value-based education, under which we have a number of values that as teachers, during our interaction with learners, we need to somehow build the values in our learners, be it love, responsibility, respect, unity, peace, patriotism, social justice, and integrity. Those are just but among the values that as teachers, we need to inculcate in our learners during our interaction as we teach. More so, we have said that the second pillar is principles of the basic education curriculum framework. And which are these principles? Opportunity, excellence, diversity, inclusion, parental empowerment and engagement, community service learning, differentiated curriculum and learning. So again, we said the third of the pillars is theoretical approaches. And this one, as Madam Emily has just introduced, we have a theory. This theory is one among the theories that are in the third pillar of our basic education curriculum framework. Allow me to mention them. One is what we call the Gardner's multiple intelligence theory that we are going to learn. We have the instructional design theory, and we have Piaget's theory of cognitive development. I believe that one we really interacted with during our training as teacher trainees. And there is another one, I don't know whether I'll be able to pronounce this word, Vygotsky's sociocultural theory, Vygotsky's sociocultural theory. So this theory that Madam Emily is going to introduce is one among the theories that build the theoretical approach as a pillar to our basic education curriculum framework. Thank you, Madam Emily, and back to you.
Okay. Participants, as we come to Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory, we need to note that learners possess different minds. The learners that we have are very diverse. They think differently. They process information differently. They access differently. They answer questions differently. So they are that diverse. They have completely different minds. And they learn, even their listening is different. They remember things differently, and they perform differently. All that is a package of what we know about that. And there are different learning experiences. And we know that a learning experience refers to any interaction or the cause of a problem or other experience in which learning takes place. So it refers just to any interaction that takes place in class, and that brings about learning. And we have that theory that Madam Grace has explained so well. And within that theory, what comes on our picture that is posed is we can see we have a number of things that are portrayed. I can see, I can see the young men. I don't know whether they are standing akimbo. I can see a percentage there. I can see a picture of an eye, and you can all see. And this one guides us to this activity in line with Howard Gardner's theory, who said that learners possess different minds. They work differently. They answer questions differently. They understand differently, and so on and so forth. And there we are with an activity. The picture above illustrates the different types of learners whom you have in your classroom. You can see the different kind of learners that you have. I don't know whether you are seeing them. I don't know how we would interpret them, because I can only see nature smart and I see naturalist. And you can read from your end. We also have music somewhere. And out of that, how can a teacher tell that a particular learner has a particular kind of intelligence? Out of the picture, how will you tell? Kindly, we can chat on this. We can chat on this, and Madam Grace will pick for us what is coming out. You can see in class we are so much represented. But what happens when our learners go through the 8-year course in primary school? You get that we have only graduated about, in a school we may graduate only about 5. You know, the students or the learners that will say they have done well, whether they are graduating to the higher level of learning or they are transiting from class 8 to Form 1, you see the number that we take. And then we ask, what is Howard saying? Or what does he mean by giving all this and saying, these are the learners, these are the many minds we have in class? Madam Grace, you can take over.
Thank you, Madam Emily. Observing the overt behavior of learners, observing learners' interest in a particular theme. Somebody says, observing them as they do particular tasks. Music smart will be interested in music more than other things. Their kind of responses can guide us. Somebody says, allowing learners to mix freely so that interests come out naturally can guide us. How they respond to questions through different interpretations of a visual diagram that can tell us where the learners are lying. Use of songs, the clubs they join, wow. Performing the task excellently. Listening to them as they speak may tell us where they belong. By giving them practical tasks to see how they perform the tasks, that may also guide us. Looking at their passion, maybe when they are doing activities, the way they express themselves, observing them in different activities, listening to what and how they interact. Maybe when during their free time, you listen to what they are discussing, also look at how they interact. Listening, confidence when responding to a given task, maybe we look at how confident they are. Use of realities, I don't get that. The interest they have towards certain subjects may tell us in which intelligence group they belong to. The way they use their hands, maybe asking them about themselves, they describe themselves. Can use self-directed exercises, see how they participate and how they are how interested they are. Organizing talent shows. Selection of subjects by learners. If you look out for leadership qualities through observation as they perform some tasks, performance in different subjects, leadership qualities, maybe we can look out for such an aspect and we may be able to place our learners. Wow, use of locally available materials, I don't understand how. Identifying their passions through talent shows can guide us. Tasks they fear. If some learners fear a specific task, we may know they are not oriented on to that direction. Self-smart learners will love to lead in front of the teachers, knowing the level of understanding, how they express themselves. I think we have those I can do, Madam Emily.
Thank you, Madam Grace. Just looking at the picture and what is the pictures that are there, or the drawings rather, we can be able to tell that in our class we have people who are very particular, or learners who are very particular about numbers. Categorically, that will tell you that they love to reason. They love to get connections, to anything that you give them, which is mathematical. It will also tell you that they love, abstract things. They love scientific investigation, and especially those that do with numbers. And then when, like, you get to have there's somewhere where we have the spatial virtue, that one straight away will tell you if it is about eyes, either that person has something to do with the drawing, because with drawing, like, you have to be very keen. With painting, you have to be also very keen. So that means the visual art for them is very, very important. And such people are able to put puzzles together. And because they are using, they are using their minds, and they are able even to position objects to bring shapes together. Then when we sit down there, body smart, we can guess somebody who is body smart probably has the capacity, to manipulate objects and to use a lot of, bodily skills. And those people that use body skills, we have examples everywhere. We have like the people who are dancers, they are using their body skills. We have the athletics. Remember, we have also in this category, we can put the surgeons as well. They will demonstrate that. Then when we come, like, we are just looking from afar and trying to guess, what is it about? If we see the nature smart, I think that's person very particular about the environment or what is in the environment, and can easily, identify what is in the environment, the elements in the environment, the animals, the plants. It's all about nature. When we get to music, this particular person will be very particular about the sounds, the way the music flows and the like, the musical instruments, the way music is played. They will not take any nonsense, about the rhythm, the tone, the melody. They will be very particular. And we have all of them there. So that is our class. We have like the verbal linguistic. What can we judge from them? They have the ability to understand and reason using concepts. And that's why we find, even in an environment where we have the linguistics, we'll get that they are creative, even to come up with, the drama activities and all that. I'm sure we are feeling so many answers. We have the self-smart there. You can deduce what the self-smart will do. Then we get to the other part, identify learning experiences that a teacher can provide to cater for each type of the learner.
The second task is identify learning experiences that a teacher can provide to cater for each type of intelligence. For each type of intelligence. Identify learning experiences that a teacher can provide to cater for each type of intelligence.
Yeah, out of that multiple intelligence, because there we are seeing the multiple intelligence demonstrated all over. Let the charts continue to flow. Madam Grace can read a few.
Yes, a teacher can allow the body smart learner to conduct experiments in a laboratory. Doing experiments practically will boost the memory of the learner. Learner tasks involving drawings, diagrams, etc. Group work with various tasks. Music smart, tell them to compose a song. Word smart, in public speaking, maybe giving them an opportunity, performing a song. Body smart learners to group leaders. You assign them as group leaders. Choose learner-centered experience. I don't know what that means. Allow learners to progress at own pace. Music smart, you can tell them to recite poems, role play, discussion activities in word smart. Through nature walks, maybe we can identify, we can be able to take care of those that are nature smart, music smart. Let me see what is different. Role play, discussion. You don't just say nature smart. What kind of an experience are we giving them? Nature smart, give them field work activities. Let the learners work under your supervision. Creative learners can act. People smart to interact with role models. Choose appealing pictures according to the level of child. Dramatizing. Allow the learner to lead others. Field trips for nature smart. Allow learners to draw at their own time. Number smart, work out sums as groups. Nature smart to grow some crops. Picture smart to draw. People smart learners should have lots of group discussions and presentations. Dramatizing, maybe for people smart to be leaders. Involving learners in undertaking projects, allow learners to write what they like most and sample the results. That is good. Peer learning with others in different schools. Word smart, creative writing activities. Interpersonal, give extended personal reading on future topics. Having clubs that suit each of the learners. Bible check pronouncing of words. Having clubs, create conducive learning environment. Designing the environment. I think we have had almost 100 responses. Yes, Madam Emily, back to you. Having case studies.
We have had, that was a great participation. We can get to the other clip. Yes, there we are, just doing a summary of what Ghana's multiple intelligence theory. And we have just said that it states that learners possess different kinds of minds, and they learn, remember, perform, and understand in different ways. And that is what has been portrayed on the pictures that we have seen or the drawings that we have noted there. And his theory, of course, advances the view that individuals have different ways of demonstrating their intellectual abilities. So the learners that we have in class, whether they are 15, 5, or 20, their way of demonstrating intellectual abilities is very different. And Ghana identified 8 intelligences, and they are the ones that we have just gone through: the logical, mathematical, the visual, spatial, bodily, kinetic. I'm not able to pronounce that well, so you can do it for me. It will come out well. Naturalist, verbal, linguistic, intrapersonal, interpersonal, musical, and rhythm. That is what we've already dealt with. Yeah, and they are going there. Ghana explains further where we have visual spatial intelligence. People are strong in visual spatial intelligence. They are good at visualizing things. And remember, we tagged the visual spatial with those people who can draw. You have seen those people that do fine art. They are very particular about the different even pens they use, and they'll make things come out well. And these individuals are often good with directions as well as maps. Yes, they are well with direction as well as maps because that is their area. They are very particular about drawings. They are very particular about putting things together. And even doctors, the surgeons are in this. Not every doctor can do surgery work. There are those that are very particular and they can see. They have that visual acuity to be able to see things or issues within a human body. And it's like that. So we have their strength is visual and partial judgment. They can be able to judge things. You can look at something together, but their judgment will come out very well. And taking you back to what we learned in those that are within the 844 and even the other curriculum, in geography, we had map reading. And you can remember, if you have done map reading, you tell, not everyone could identify things in a map that was given of a certain area. It was by some particular people. And many people kept on saying that map reading was very difficult. So people with visual spatial intelligence, they read and write for enjoyment. So you get them. If you tell them just to do a drawing of something, for them it is fun. So they read and write for enjoyment because that is them. It is one mind as demonstrated by Howard. They are good at putting puzzles together. Give them anything and you tell them. If you have an idea, they are able to conceptualize those ideas and bring them together. They interpret pictures, just like I was giving an example of a map reading. Graphs to them and charts, it becomes very easy. They enjoy drawing, painting. I think we had mentioned that. Then there is visual art is the area. They recognize patterns easily. And these are the learners that we have in class. And these are the learners with our curriculum that is almost coming to the close. These are the learners we have wasted for a number of years and they have gone to waste simply because we never recognized their potential in terms of the different intelligences that are there in a class. There we have the linguistic and verbal intelligence. We're just doing a summary of what we've been discussing, where people are strong in linguistic, verbal intelligence, and they are able to use words well. And they are very keen, especially when you are with such people, just get them even in the places where we work. Someone who is verbally intelligent is able to pick, and mostly these are linguists. These individuals are typically very good at writing stories. Memorization is not a problem, information and reading. And remember, they are the same people that are quite creative. They are poetic. They may speak to you, in a poetic language that you may not understand. Then their strengths are words. Their strengths are words, language, and writing. That is the language they understand. It is either the words are okay, the language is coined well, their writing comes out well. And their characteristics is people with linguistic verbal intelligence. They remember written and spoken information, just like we have said above. They enjoy reading and writing. You'll get such people are reading. They are great readers. They debate or give persuasive speeches. They are able to explain themselves, things very well, explain themselves very well. Concepts are brought out very clearly, and they use humor when telling stories. Then we have the logical mathematical intelligence, and we noted the percentage that you saw. They mostly like to reason. Analyzing, they deal with mathematical operations, they deal with numbers. So they are very strong in logical mathematical intelligence, and they are good at reasoning, recognizing patterns, and logically analyzing problems. Then they are so much particular about numbers, relationships, and patterns. Their strengths are analyzing problems and mathematical operations. We have them. Get to see your colleagues, those that are particular about the logical mathematics. Then The people with logical, mathematical intelligence, they have excellent problem-solving skills. They enjoy thinking about abstract ideas. I've said that. They like conducting scientific experiments. They can solve complex computations. They are not only in mathematics. You'll get mathematics bio, you'll get mathematics physics. They are there. It's all there within them. It is them analyzing problems and mathematical operations. Then we talked of the bodily kinetic intelligence. Those who have high bodily intelligence are said to be good at body movement. We noted that. And in the course of answering our questions, we said the areas that they are mostly, they enjoy. And they are very particular, especially with the hand-eye coordination. Then their strengths are physical movement and motor control. So they are able to control whatever thing they are holding, and then their physical movement really counts when it comes to their work. That's the intelligence theory. And our learners, we have said they revolve around all this. People with bodily intelligence, they are skilled at dancing and sports. They enjoy creating things with their hands. And you can tell, look at your class, and you can point out at some of your learners that are that way. But sometimes you mistake them for, they are either harassing others in class. It's because they want to involve others in whatever activity that they are doing. They don't understand why I can do this, and this one is not involved. They have intelligent, excellent physical coordination. They remember by doing rather than by hearing or seeing. Then we have the musical. Grace, get back to the musical. Yes, we have the musical intelligence. I said that they are very particular about sides. They are very particular about the musical composition and even the instruments they use, the patterns, the rhythms. And when you get into music with such people, because mostly you'll get them where they start, they begin early. As a child, you're not that child even in the church, in Sunday school, even before they get to school. And when they get to school and they become what they purpose to become by chance, by any chance, if they get to that direction, you get that even in music, as they are training, they are very particular about the tone, about the sounds, the rhythms. They are very smart. Their strength is rhythm and music. That's the language they understand. Characteristics, people with musical intelligence, they enjoy singing. Just check in your class. You get there is a child there, a learner there, a student there who enjoys singing and is able even to put words together and come up with a song, even at an early age, and sing a song of his or her own. They recognize musical patterns and tones easily. You give them, write something and you tell them, I intend to get a song out of this. They will come up with a tone and a pattern for that music. They remember songs and melodies, and they have rich understanding of musical structure, rhythm, and notes. The do, re, mi, fa, so, they are not a problem to them. They know their meaning. Then we have interpersonal intelligence. Those are good at understanding and interacting with other people. These individuals are skilled at assessing the emotions, motivations, desires, and intentions of those around them. And those ones you can even check among the adults. With our personalities, there are people who are very particular about learning, the character of others so much, because they are very particular about interpersonal intelligence. And so they learn others very fast. They'll analyze to you a character of somebody and tell you, just wait, give it a time, check on this. And indeed, after even some time, you'll take a long time because your strength is not in that area. Their strength is understanding and relating with other people. People with interpersonal intelligence, we have them in our classes. They communicate well verbally. They are skilled in nonverbal communication as well. They see situations from different perspectives. When you look at things this way, they are seeing in another way. And by the end of it all, you prove them right. They create positive relationships with others. They resolve conflicts in group settings. So they have a number of strengths. And these are the learners. Once we get to CBC, or because we are in CBC already, it's good now to keep this as a trait to check on the learners. So that instead of just graduating about to go to a high school in a class of 41, let's graduate all of them with their different potentials and with their different intelligence. Then we have the intrapersonal intelligence. These ones are so much at self-reflection. Let's see what it's all about. Individuals who are strong in intra intelligence are good at being aware of their own emotional states, feelings, and motivation. They mind so much about themselves, their feelings, their motivations. They tend to enjoy self-reflection and analysis, based on themselves. And mostly we say that they dream most of the times. They explore relationships with others and assess their personal strength. And so they know where they are supposed to fit, because a lot of time is so much on reflection and where to fit. So their strength is introspection and self-reflections. People with intrapersonal intelligence, they analyze their strengths and weaknesses well. They enjoy analyzing theories and ideas. They have excellent self-awareness. They understand the basis of his or her own motivations and feelings. They know themselves so much. They don't take anything. They take that which is part of them. They have reflected on it. They have analyzed it. So when a teacher comes in to guide an intrapersonal intelligent learner, it becomes very easy, because most of the times you'll get them, taking you to the next step even before you take them there. They will tell you, if it's a learner, teacher, this is what I want to do. They will even suggest. They won't wait for you to give a lot of guidance and direction. Yes, we have the naturalistic intelligence, and we have noted that according to Ghana's intelligence theory, individuals who are high in this type of intelligence are more in tune with nature. That one we noted. And they are often interested with nurturing, exploring. And we can all get back to a certain lady in Kenya, the late so-and-so, was very particular. I think we can say our area was that. And we have had even learners within our classes. There are those that are very particular about the environment. So according to the naturalistic intelligence theory, these individuals are said to be highly aware or even subtle changes in their environment. Anything that changes, they are particular. They want to keep the environments well, finding patterns and relationship to nature. Characteristics, people who are or with naturalistic intelligence, they are interested in subjects such as botany, biology, zoology, and all that. Then they enjoy camping. These are the people you get wanting to get out on camping missions, gardening. If you get to their place, you get that they are planted they have all kinds of plants. If you get to flowers, they are very particular about picking different flowers, exploring, outdoors so that they can meet their need. Then they dislike learning and familiar topics that have no connection to nature. They don't enjoy that. But if you tell them you go out hiking, if you tell them you go climbing Mount Kenya, they will be number one because it is part of them. So we have those 8 intelligence theories, and that is what we have for Ghana. And we have said that all that represent our learners, and it is there, the multiple intelligence theory. You can see it's just a continuation, or in other words, a repeat of what we have done. You can see the self-smart there, the linguistic, the world smart. Then you can see logistic, SMART. We have the numbers there. We have the nature. We have the picture SMART. We have the body, which is represented by foot because of the bodily movement. We have the music SMART. You can see there is the keyboard there. So the theory by Howard can be put in different ways. Yes, and there we have application of Ghana's theory. That is what we have, the application there. And we can apply this. And we know mostly we find ourselves using the pedagogical approaches. These are the various aspects of teaching. We won't just be coiled just one teaching method or two, like we have used, in the course before we shift, we are still using them. Even we can buy this on the Ghana's theory and transform for the years that we have with the classes that are remaining, because his theory is really applicable. So we are saying that we will deliver concepts using the multiple ways. And because learners cannot learn the same information using the same ways, we need to realize that we cannot uniform the measure that we use for our learners. We have to change. And indeed, that is what we do in our teaching and learning that takes place, especially for the 844 system. We assume that the learning methods that we use, we may use one or two, we assume they can apply for all the learners that are in class. And then the exam that we do by the end of the 8 years or by the end of the 4 years, it is, I believe now it is an assumption that it applies to all the learners. When Howard theory is giving us the different minds that are in class. So the pedagogical approaches under this theory emphasize the importance of learner-centered classroom. So we are emphasizing that learners are different. Then self-directed learning, allow for self-directed learning, where as a teacher, you are only guiding. And indeed, we are relating so much with CBC because this is how it should be. Learner-centered classroom, self-directed learning, and delivery of instruction via multiple mediums. Because with different minds, our learners will not understand things the same. They will not process things the same. That's what we are saying. So we need to have at least multiple, even learning methods, multiple activities, so that as we apply to this learner days, we can apply to the next learner days. If you get the person that learns very fast and goes ahead of others, then you need to accelerate that and be left now manning the ones that are there, but still checking on the gifted and talented. Then Ghana says that these differences challenge assumption that everyone can learn the same materials in the same way. That is what I just said. We assume that we all can learn the same information, the same, in a history class, in a mathematics class, the same way. Everything is uniform. Even when it comes to testing, our testing is the same for all the learners. So we can get to appreciate CBC and we can get to appreciate TPD, because TPD and CBC will work together. There is recognition that integration of multiple intelligence has the potential to improve learners' learning and achievement. You can imagine when you have a class with those intelligence that we have just discussed, you can see the outcomes that you love by the end of your teaching or by the end of your assessment. You love so many graduating. And I remember last week, Madam Grace talking about different pathways. This is where now we can be able to connect with the pathways that we have in competence-based curriculum. They were very clear. We had the early years and graduating to the upper areas up to the area of work, such that at a certain point, there is this learner who may not become a doctor, because there are some concepts that are not understood by this learner. Then we won't waste this learner. This learner will get into a pathway, and that pathway will shape the learner in line with the OWARD theory. It requires a teacher to prepare learning activities which appeal to diverse intelligences among the learners with one or more of the 8 intelligences. So what are we saying? We have been given the different intelligences, and we can be able to, align learners to their various intelligences or to their various intelligence. If it is naturalistics, then you take them that direction. If it is those that are good at using their bodies, their movement, you'll take them onto that path. And their lives will be better. So the outcomes will be better for them. We won't have the dropouts. And even if we have the dropouts, they will be very minimal. I hear and forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. So I remember saying this is a saying by a philosopher who was called Confucius, a Chinese philosopher, those many years, and we are applying this in the 21st century.
I want our participants to interact with the content.
Yes.
Via the Mentimeter.
All right.
So Elvis kindly guide our members on how to get to Mentimeter. At least we can do activity 1 and 2 on the Mentimeter. So allow me to present my Mentimeter questions. Our participants, let's get to menti.com and you join my presentation using the code 29400234. Let us not waste much time so that by the hour, on top of the hour, we'll be through with our content so that we don't lose members on the way. Are they guided? Sir Elvis?
Yes, they are. Please place the link and the code on the chat.
The link. Go to https:/menti.com, join the presentation 29,400,234. Yes, and let us start responding. People are responding on the chat. Yes, learners understand more through practicing. I can see a response. That might be the meaning of the quote, because our question 1 was, what do you understand by this quote? Yes, keep them coming. Learners understand more when they practice. Involve the kids directly. Kids learn through doing. Learners learning by discovery. Practicals work better. We learn more by seeing. Learners understand more when practice makes perfect. Wow. Method without activities. Learning by discovery. Method without activities. Kids learn through doing. We learn more by seeing. Hands-on activity. Learning by hands-on activities. I think we are cutting our answers into pieces. Keep them coming. Practice makes perfect. Seeing and doing. Lecture method, which is now the lecture method. Is that what the quote means? Does it mean lecture method? Does it mean demonstration by the teacher? Let us get at least half number of, or even all of us responding within the next half a minute, so that we look at our activity number 2. Have we all exhausted the meaning of the quote or our understanding by this quote? I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Yes, practicals. practice makes perfect. Practicals are easy to remember. Learning to use all senses of what they learn. Wonderful. You see, it sticks in your mind. We learn better by doing. They are becoming smaller even for my eyes. Members, let us move on to the next question. Then maybe the rest of the members will have a chance to respond. Are we there? Use of pictures. There is a teacher who uses pictures. Science practicals. I don't know they refer to which situation. I wish I broke them into the 3 situations. Discovery, question and answers. Lecture could be maybe the first part. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. Discussion, group work, doing practicals. I hear, I forget. Observation method, listening, carrying out an experiment. So I believe we can be able to, what would I call it? To sieve through our answers and place them in the 3 situations as per the quote. And the first situation was, I hear and I forget. Second situation, I see and I remember. Third situation, I do, I understand. I do and I understand. So I think we have good answers. 41 members out of our 268 have responded. Demonstration, use of practicals, group work, use of realia, use of charts, dramatizing, for sure that is visual. Lecture method is what I hear and I forget. Graphics and creativity, a lot of practices on students' work. Discovery method, lecture method, physical activities, learning by teaching. Explanation, demonstration. Lecture method is here, I forget. Use of teaching aids to enable the aspect of seeing. Asking learners to solve using experiments to understand what they are doing. Writing examples on the board, very true. Even if I'm lecturing and I'm writing notes on the board, I'm enhancing the aspect of seeing. And once they see, they will remember. I trigger their remembrance. But the aspect of doing and doing makes understanding. So at least we have 59, 61 responses. And I believe we are doing well. Modeling is doing. Use of science at practicals, physical activities, use of flashcards. I believe they have been used especially for the early grades, the early years of learning, especially to show numbers, to show the alphabet, use of flashcards. And I believe we are good to go. It means we are learning. We are learning. 65 responses out of 284. So we still have a good number of us who are not with us in class. Members, I hope we are here. 66. Yes. Madam Emily?
Yes.
Can we go back to the whatever?
Yes, thank you, Madam Grace, for that pick. And
yes, that was a good break for us.
Yes.
Let me return the slides. And there we were. So we go to the next slide. But before we go to the next slide, maybe on our own time as teachers, can we reflect on our way of doing things and kindly capture the last activity? Kindly let us capture the last activity, because we need to do self-reflection as to how we do these things. So on the chat I have sent the last activity on the rating scale of 1 to 5. 1 is never, 2 rarely, 3 sometimes, 4 often, 5 always. Indicate your usage of the teaching approaches you have identified above. How much do you use practicals? How much do you use realia? How much do you use teaching aids to promote the aspect of either I see and I remember, I do and I understand, or how much do you use the lecture method for learners to hear and forget? That is for your own homework. Reflect yourself, improve yourself from the kind of results you get. Let's get on moving. Madam Emily, back to you.
Thank you, Grace. Okay, all that brings us to the learner-centered approaches, and they are there. So we are saying we need to recognize in our various classes, or as we interact with different learners, that our learners have different abilities, and that each learner is unique, and that each learner listens differently, accesses information differently, and even when it comes to the application of this information acquired, it is still is different. Because like after going through a practical class or a lesson with the learners, and you just get them somewhere, now they close their books and you give them papers and you tell them, answer, just write what I've taken you through, the practical aspects. You'll get there are those that are starting from the end of a something to the beginning. And you get there are those that are very systematic. So in other words, we are handling different abilities. And as teachers, it is important that we have intentional, or we have that intentional designing of experiences that are varied, so that we can raise the bar of the learner to be able to access, to process, to interpret, and even to apply. So we need to focus, therefore, on learners' needs. Every time we are in class, we focus on learners' needs. We also focus on their experiences, because different learners have undergone different experiences. Let's focus on their background, because our learners come from different backgrounds. And I think that is what, with the system that is there, we are going a shift, like Madam Grace said last week. The background aspect of the learner is very important, and that understanding of the learner. Then the preferences of the learner, meaning their interests. So sometimes their interests are just lost because we have not identified them, or we have identified their interests and then we have interpreted them to be something else. There are those probably we have labeled as criminals, but in a way, it's because we didn't understand their preferences and their interests. So by realizing learners are unique, then the teacher is able to connect learners with what he or she doesn't know. So our aim is to get the learner at that point where the learner is. And that's why we say all learners exposed to learning can learn. It's only that they will learn at different levels. And this is where now we come in to get them at their different levels and push each and every learner to the level they are able to perform. And that is why still referring you back to the pathways, that's why at the lower grade, we have learners, they are crisscrossing from, the side, I know Grace analyzed the two sides. There is a learner who will not go beyond grade 8 because of the challenges, because of the challenges that the learner has. And we have to understand, but that learner will be tailored to his or a pathway. The learner can even be guided up, to come up with a roadmap. There are learners that you realize they don't require so much of even teacher guidance. You guide them with just 1 point, and they are able to tell you, yes, I can get there, until to a point where they have climbed the ladder and they get to a place where they need you, and they tell you, teacher, here I can't manage. You come and join the dot for us, 1 or 2 dots, and they rise up from there. So what are we saying? We are saying a learner-centered approach is the acknowledgement of the diversity among learners. And as teachers, we need to understand that each learner has a unique way of accessing, processing, and applying information. It involves many varied, intentionally designed instructional experiences. I'm so particular about intentionally designed instructional experiences, because some of the experiences, some of the intentional designs of instruction you'll come up with, they won't be just those that are in our textbooks. It will be out of the teacher's creativity. So as a teacher, as a guide, you'll also require to be ahead of the learners. Be creative so that you can be able now to lead the learners into processing, interpreting, and applying. So a learner-centered approach is activity focuses on learners' needs. You consider the needs, the experiences, you consider the learner's background, you consider the preferences. We have said that a learner-centered activity helps the learner make the connections between what they already know and the new information. So because there is that new information, is it possible to translate the learner at that point? It's a thin line to be able to get to the next point. But you are sure when you get them to the next point, to the new information, they will pick the new information and they will get to another thin line where they cannot move. So it will be connecting. It provides the learner with opportunities to set goals, provide input into learning process. So these learner-centered methods, you'll find there are learners who will just require a lead. And it also provides opportunities to share interests, opinions, supportive environment, because we have diversified learners. So the interest will be shared. And in the process, remember we say sometimes leaders are not made. They are those that in class, they have never even realized their potential, that they can draw or they can sing. But in the process of seeing the others do, because their potential was a bit hidden, it will also spring up, and you have many learners, or you have many learners who are graduating with different learning outcomes. The learner-centered activities increase the engagement, motivation, and success of the learners. That is very clear, because once a learner likes something, is motivated towards that thing, it becomes the core of that learner. And that is what will lead to, because of that particular activity that is very key, and the learner does it very well, you are able even to call that learner to demonstrate. You are able to call a different learner to demonstrate something else, because they are gifted or they are talented different. So we have there the learner-centered approaches. You get that it's like we'll just be doing the repeat, this being the very first module. You find that we are just doing a repeat of the many things that we are doing. They are just repeating themselves. So we have the cooperative teaching, which is mostly, we know that it is mostly in group work, small groups. And it's a strategy that involves learners working in small groups to complete a task on projects. The tasks are structured so that each member contributes to the completion of the task. And sometimes, the small groups work or group work sometimes may not accommodate all the learners. But because we are saying that the teacher is a guide, the teacher is able to guide that here, make sure all the learners are not left. Let every learner pick an area that they will present it, because in that way we won't have learners that are in the group and then they are not participating at all, or they feel that there are learners in the group that are better than them. When we have each learner, even the most weak learner, has something to say and can even be given preference. What is it that you contribute to the group? And you give such a learner attention, you'll find that the learner will say, this is what I'll do. And so you'll have taken care of all the members. Cooperative learning. Then we have the group discussion, the strategy that we have used for a long time in our teaching, where learners articulate their views and respond to opinions from their own. The group may be structured as either large or small. And remember, when they are discussion, they are even critiquing that which they are putting across. They are reasoning and they are giving reasons as to why they are saying this and not the other. So it is still something that can be undertaken by learners in a group, but with guidance, so that everyone is not all are left out, or not one is left out. All, many are participating and about 5 in the group are not. Then we have the independent study as a learner-centered method. And this one you'll find with some of the learners. The independent study may not be with a great percentage of the learners, because it's a strategy that promotes individualized learning experience. But this is something you can, because you are the lead trainer, you can train on this. And I'm sure many a times we have had the lessons, and particularly in English, we have had to train our learners, that aspect of silent reading and making them to be dependent, graduating from, that aspect of all answering at once to individual answering, and even learning at their pace. So a strategy that promotes individualized learning experience, allowing learner to select a topic or focus, define the problem, gather and analyze information, apply skills, and create a product to show and tell. And it can be practiced. It is possible to let our learners become independent, and hence practice independent study as a center or as learner-centered approach. Then we have the portfolio development. And I remember Madam Grace last week talked on portfolio, where learners document and demonstrate their different levels of competencies and skills acquired. And because we are teachers in our case, is different learning areas, or in different learning areas or different subjects. And this is where we develop a portfolio. And this portfolio shows what they can document, what they are learning. You can easily help them in documenting. And it is a very important kind of learning or learner-centered method, especially with the competency-based curriculum. And now that we are talking of assessment, we are not talking of examinations. You can tell the portfolio development is very, very key. Then we have the other learner-centered method of journaling. It is very common with the writers, where we know that writers keep journals, and where in these journals they record their thoughts, they record even their ideas and feelings, and they put them on paper. And this is what we need to train our learners. It's a learner-centered method that is very key. This is a teaching strategy that provides learners with an opportunity to record their thoughts, feelings, reflections, and the journals enable learners to explore ideas and clarify their thinking. It promotes reflection and higher level thinking. And I'll get back to English. Sometimes when we are writing composition, you'll find this very much, because if you tell the learners, especially in lower grade, because they don't have reservations, if you tell them to write a composition about their home, those learners will write. They will write what they see. They also write their thoughts, and you will enjoy. So the journaling is very key, and it's a very good strategy because it helps you know your learners. You know those that can express their thoughts well, and you know the direction to take them. Then there are those that are very keen on diagrams. Anything that they put over is on diagram or it is on graphs. They illustrate this data. They can use circles for illustration. They can compare with data. They can even draw. They draw. And when they draw, they can draw even learners of themselves in class. And they draw this as this size. They draw this as the other side. So they are able to relate. They bring relationships very well. Then we have community service learning, the teaching strategy that is so much based on the environment. So where learners are able to participate in a service within the community that has a learning component and reflection. And I remember the other day on Friday, I think we had such an activity where, as Madam Grace was taking you through, there was a certain clip that had our learners, I think, in a marketplace, and we needed to see what they were doing. It's an activity that is part of the community, so that our learners don't, they are aware of what takes place in the environment. You know, they will not think that, milk comes from the tap. They will know that there is an animal somewhere called a cow, and a cow has to be fed. A cow has to be, to be kept healthy. It has to be kept in a place that is clean, and it has to be milked by, and that is the learner. So we have also the inquiry-based learning, the teaching approach that provides learners with an opportunity to examine issues systematically. So if you are using inquiry, it requires some planning. It requires the learners to be taken through, and this is what CBC it's all about. We are getting learners, and we are getting individual learners, and we are helping them plan. Sometimes we are planning for them as a kickoff, and then moving forward, they are supposed to have that inquiry. It's supposed to inbuilt in them. Then we have project-based learning, a teaching strategy in which learners are guided to identify a project. And if we start these things early, it becomes very easy, because as they get now to junior secondary going forward, they are able now to come up with practical things, projects for themselves or on their own.
Thank you, Madam Emily, for the good work for that first session of our day's content or training. And we have a note here, and let us note it as the exclamation mark requires. Let us all give it the due attention that it deserves. And if I may read through, it is telling us that telling the learners what they need to know through lecturing is not learner-centered. Telling the learners what they need to know through lecturing is not learner-centered. Lectures should be short and most often a preface to an activity that is meaningful. In other words, we are being reminded that a short lecture should just be an introduction to an activity that will be learner-centered. Number 2, having the learner simply read a chapter or a paper is not learner-centered activity unless we focus their reading by asking questions that help create links between the theory and the learner's jobs, tasks, or interests or their experiences. I may repeat, having the learner simply read a chapter or a paper is not a learner-centered activity unless we are focusing their reading by asking questions. In other words, before we tell the learners to read an article, to read a piece of work, we give them questions that will direct what they are reading, the kind of information that they are going to gain, to something more creative. In other words, the information should help them undertake a task or should build into their experiences and interests. I believe that we have taken note of those two aspects and that we go on with our business of the day. And that leads us to the second session of our 4 days training. And allow me to introduce ourselves to what we are going to look at: integration of technology in teaching and learning. I believe from the word go, when we talked about the competencies, and people really wanted to know, how do we really use digital literacy? How do we integrate the use of ICT in our learning? And I believe even somebody had asked, how really do I use this technology when I am teaching my special needs learners? So we are going to interact with this in the remaining part of our lesson, or the session for the day. So very fast, before we get a break, because we are going to have a break where we can jog our minds, where we can do a discussion, let us use the chat very fast on what we know about integration of technology in teaching and learning and what we would want to learn. Write on the chat box what you know and what you want to learn about integration of technology in teaching and learning. Keep them coming within the next 1 minute. Let us not dwell so much there before we go to the next activity that will give us at least 10 minutes break, and we come and conclude on the lesson. Keep them coming. What do we know? Yes, I can see some responses that use of ICT makes learning interesting, motivates learners. I believe that. Making learning, use of digital devices, that is what we know about integration. You must be able to source or create digital content. You must be able to source or create digital content. Mwalili Peter believes or knows that. You must be able to source. Yes, Elvis interferes with my answers and he posts the attendance form. Have we all seen the attendance form for the day 4? Yes, it is there. Oporino 6 says interesting. I don't know what now is interesting, whether it is integration of ICT, gives well-researched work, make learning interesting. What I know, use of ICT to teach and prepare for lessons. What I know, use of 3D diagrams and videos on the topic, creates desires to learn more, high retention in class, makes learning real. I know it means use of digital resources to supplement learning. What about teaching? What about teaching? Paul Seme. Do we supplement teaching with the use of digital resources? Teacher Carol says can be both synchronous and asynchronous. Makes learning interesting and real. Brings the world to the class. Use of digital devices in teaching, creating interest, getting digital content and use it in learning. to simulate learners. ICT is the simplest way to do things. I believe even in teaching and learning, then I know that we can use virtual experiment to conduct experiment on abstract content in physics. That is, we'll scale the physics teacher, keep learners alert, use of digit, organizing Zoom classrooms for learners who are far, and also downloading relevant content. So we have all what it takes. And what do we want to learn now that we know all this much? Do we have anything to learn, really? ICT boosts learning, use of different what? Senses, hence more understanding. I hope we are using the eye and the ear and the hands, using ICT. Leads to a lot of discovery. ICT makes a teacher not to strain. Wow, what do we want to learn? In a nutshell, what do we want to learn? Yes, somebody want to learn how to use Mentimeter, use of Mentimeter, open learners' minds. Somebody gotta say that too wants to know whether our schools will afford ICT gadgets, want to learn how to create Kahoot and Mentimeter. That is Beatrice Okinyo. So Elvis.
Yes, I can hear you.
Are you getting these questions? So that we know how to approach the want to learn and satisfy our participants.
That is
want
true.
To learn the best practices and methods of integrating ICT in learning. So we have to managing how affordable is it. In case the gadgets are not enough, how to order more. Want to know how to use a projector. Oh my goodness. I wish we have practical lessons face to face so that we use this. Use of smart TV and all this. So let's get to our next session. Yes, an activity that will give us at least a break from hearing my voice, that we discuss things amongst ourselves as participants. Here is an activity. Click on the link. We are told by the activity that we read on the benefits of ICT in education and then respond to the questions below. How can a teacher benefit from the use of ICT in teaching and learning? How does a learner benefit from the use of ICT in learning? So participants, we are going to find ourselves in groups of about 25 to 30. And in these groups, the moment we get ourselves in the groups, let us select one person to chair our discussion. And let us also have a secretary to take notes and then come and report when we are back to the main classroom. Over to you, Sir Elvis.
Thank you very much. Members, once again, we are going to go into our breakout rooms and we are going to discuss the questions that have been placed on the chat. I'm also going to attempt to share so that we can have the questions. Madam Grace, you can also share those questions on the chat.
That is exactly what I'm doing, Sir.
So I'm going to divide you into groups. I'm going to divide into 9 rooms or 9 groups of around 30 people each, 31, 32 each. 31, 32 each. So once you enter into a group, you can nominate someone. You can nominate someone to read to be able to take down your notes, then have a secretary, and also then be ready to present. I shall be walking through the rooms to check that there is activity in the room. So I'm going to create them. You're going to be assigned a room randomly. So once you get into the room, just begin. Have some order. Don't speak over someone. You can do a bit of turn-taking, and let us be very civil. I'm going to do so right now. So if you find yourself in a group, please begin, and then we shall see how to go about it. Thank you.
So the moment you see a prompt that you are being requested to join, just click on join.
Click join, click join.
Yes, yes.
You will see a request to join a group. Please join.
Yes, Madam Emily, we are back to the main classroom.
Yes, we
are back, Grace.
Yes, and I can see our participants are back. So I'll take us through the reporting.
Thank you very much. Her groups, I thought her group was very lively. So Madam Okeo Atieno, please proceed.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Atieno.
I'm Okeo, and I'll just give a few of the points that we talked about in our group. My group was group 8. On the first question about how students benefit from the usage of ICT, we had the students have access to curriculum material. So it's easier for teachers to refer them to, back to the tools, the ICT tools, so that they can go look for the materials themselves. So it makes them, okay, I don't know how to explain that. The other point we had is learners are encouraged to do research, so they don't have to depend on their guiders or their teachers. So it promotes that self-independence. Learners also develop higher retention levels, and that, of course, becomes a plus to the teacher. Sorry, that was the answer to question 2. Question 1, we had, it makes it easier for teachers to include all learners, especially, when we talk about inclusive education, we are talking about the learners with special needs, since there'll be usage of a lot of other tools like visual and audios for especially the hearing and visually impaired. Then we also had teachers would understand more, develop more clarity on the content that they are teaching, because from ICT usage, there's a lot of materials, and you can always, you understand. Well, those are some of the points that I dropped down for our group discussion, group 8.
Thank you.
I believe we can proceed. So let's move on from there. We have seen how ICT benefits both the learner to learn and the teacher to teach. From that article, which we can always interact with. So allow me to say that we have all agreed that ICT integration is the issue of us accessing digital devices or technology, and we use it as far as learning and teaching is concerned. So I'm going to be a bit fast because obviously we have a good introduction by interacting with that article. So remember, we are saying that we have to integrate technology in teaching and learning. And even before we do that, remember we said that CBC is about nurturing every learner's potential. And that means that no learner should be left behind. So even as we think of using this technology in our learning and teaching, then we should always bear in mind that no child should be disadvantaged. So we are saying that integration of technology in teaching and learning is that acknowledgement of the role of technology in both teaching and learning, especially in the context of 21st century. Remember, we said that even us, we want to capacity build our strategies, our methodologies, our values, our skills, and even our knowledge, so that we are able to cope in the 21st century. If we don't do that, we are going to see that even our learners will be much ahead of us. And then we'll wonder who is teaching who. So we are saying that we'll acknowledge that we use this technology in both teaching and learning, but no learner should be left behind. So we are saying that it is expected that as teachers, we must be digital literate. We must be digital literate. And remember, we are saying that TPD, or teacher professional development, can be through self-initiated activities or programs. We do not have to wait until maybe our employer comes with a program where we are trained on use of digital devices. We don't have to wait until somebody pushes us so much and so hard that we are not coping or we are not meeting the standards. Remember, we said that at a point, if somebody sits in your class and does an assessment, and at the end of the day, the kind of feedback you get is that, oh my, your teaching was not up to standards, meaning there was some gaps somewhere. We don't have to wait, especially as far as ICT is concerned. Enroll yourself to an evening class, for instance. Learn how to use these devices, how to ensure or how to even use these virtual platforms for teaching. If it is Zoom like we are using, are you in a position to do a Zoom class, control your participants, do the kind of breaking rooms that we have done for group work? That is my challenge to all of us tonight. So we are saying that we must be digital literate so that we are capable of accessing, retrieving, designing lessons that integrate ICT for us to teach and for the learners to learn. More so, we are saying that as teachers, we are expected that we have knowledge, skills, and attitudes that will enable us use computer applications and online platforms. And indeed, the word is basic computer applications, basic online platforms, like we are using the Zoom. Can we use the other platforms, like even Google Classrooms? Can we use them to ensure there is teaching and learning? Remember the COVID-19 outbreak really meant that we learned the hard way because we could not go to schools, we could not go to our classrooms to meet our learners, but learning and teaching somehow had to take place. So we are saying that teachers, let us be challenged, that we have the knowledge, the skills, and even the attitude to use these basic computer applications and online platforms. And I will insist on the aspect of attitude, because majority of us are just technology shy. We fear out of nothing. You have not interacted with these gadgets, but you have already coiled back to say that I cannot do, I cannot manage. That is the negative attitude that we want to shed off, so that going forward, we are the 21st quality teachers for quality teaching, for quality learning outcomes. We are also saying that the successful integration of ICT in the learning environment obviously will not depend on the learner, but will depend on the ability of the teacher to structure the learning in new ways, to merge technology appropriately with our pedagogy, with our teaching methods. We must also develop socially active classrooms, like the ones we have just closed for group work. And therefore, we are required even to encourage cooperative interaction and collaborative learning and group work. Remember, we are talking about learner-centered teaching and learning. It is not about I as a teacher, but it should be always the learner's outcome. And for the learner's outcome to be achieved, for the learner's outcome to be realized, the learner must be learning. So we are saying that for many of us as teachers, it requires a different set of skills from those that we currently possess. Majority of us only know how to operate the phone. But we are saying that we need to go a step ahead. We need to go a step further and engage this technology. From the phone, can I operate a laptop? From a laptop, just basic computer skills like Word, Excel, typing here and there. Can I also engage my laptop and go online? Most of us will say that we are not connected. Yet, for using the phone, I can also I can connect the two devices so that I get online. So we are saying we require those different skills from what we have. And we are saying that let us not be computer shy, let us not be technology shy, let us learn. And remember, we are saying that as teachers, the 21st century teacher is not shy, even to say, I don't know. And that is why in our training, we are dwelling so much on what do I know and what do I want to learn. So even in the school setup, what do I know about these gadgets? But what would I want to do differently? Mr. So-and-so in my staff room, Madam so-and-so in staff, I admire them because they are computer pro, because they are technology pro. Why can I not approach my colleague so that they give a direction, so that I continue upgrading my own computer, my own technology skills? That is what we are saying, that the TPD programs can be self-initiated. They can be initiated even at the school level, amongst ourselves, that we train each other. If there is a computer teacher, why not give us evening classes as teachers so that we also match the kind of students, the kind of learners that we so have. So we are also saying that the use of technology in education contributes a lot in pedagogical aspects in our teaching, whereby application of ICT will lead to effective learning with the help of support from ICT elements and components. And for sure, remember, we have just engaged the use of ICT, and we have seen the kind of wonders they really can do. Allow me to show this kind of a model whereby we are interacting with the gadgets or technology in terms of delivery of content and to enhance our teaching methods, or what we have called pedagogy. So we are saying that an effective implementation of technology in the classroom requires acknowledgement of the dynamic or changing transactional relationship among the three aspects, that is the content, the pedagogy, and now the technology. How will the three interact for effective teaching and learning? And we are saying that all these should be within the context. Remember, we said that learners are different. We should also know that schools are different. I remember somebody asking, how do we even add the kind of gadgets that we have if what we have is not enough? We have unique schools. Schools are different. Even classes are different. Maybe grade 1 and 2 are very different. And even the cultures in which we are operating are very, very different. And remember, Madam Emily has insisted, for us to be effective and quality teachers, for quality teaching, for quality learning achievements, for quality learning, then we need to have all this at the back of our minds. When as a teacher I'm preparing a lesson, do I have all this in mind so that at the end of the day, all learners learn and none is left behind? So we are saying that a teacher can always adopt the TPAC, ICT implementation model. And the framework just shows, I don't know if I enlarge whether it will be a bit clear for us. I think it has been clear kidogo. So we are saying that the three aspects are integrating, or they are somehow relating to ensure that there is learning. At the center is what we are calling technological pedagogical content knowledge. That is the TPAC. At the center is the TPAC, technological pedagogical content knowledge. And how is this being achieved? We are saying that on one end, we have the technological knowledge. How much do I know as far as technology is concerned? That is the TK. And as TK interacts with the technological content knowledge, TCK, then we can see that some content knowledge is also being achieved. And we can see the kind of interaction that is taking place. I hope the moment we get our notes, we are going to look at it better. And on this other circle is the pedagogical knowledge, that my teaching ways, my teaching methods. And we are saying that if this interact with content knowledge, then what I get here is the pedagogical content knowledge. So I have the content and I have the teaching methodology. Once the pedagogical knowledge interacts with the technological knowledge, what I get or what I achieve as a teacher is the technological pedagogical knowledge, or the TPK. So we get our notes and we try to interrogate the model that we are encouraging ourselves to adopt. Here is the concept of inclusive education and its characteristics. We have been talking about no learner being left behind, but look at the kind of a pictorial representation that is here. Even as we talk of integrating ICT, should we leave one learner behind? Then at the end of the day, we cannot say that we have taught, and neither can we say that our learners have learned. If you look at this image, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Learners with different capabilities. Learners from different backgrounds. Learners with different cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. So how are we treating them all together? So we are saying that for a fair selection, that is the teacher, for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please scribe that tree. That is the kind of a system we have had all through, that our learners are judged by the summative exam at the end of the 8 years course, at the end of the 4 years course, at the end of the 4 years course. I believe even at the highest, at tertiary levels, it is cumulative, it is better. But look at the 8 and 4 in our old system. It is very summative, and this is exactly what it is meant in pictorial representation. I don't want us to do so much into looking at the activity, but in your own time, maybe we can take a screenshot here. What is your understanding of the following terms? Equality, equity, and fairness. Looking at this picture, do we have equality? Do we have equity? Do we have fairness? Yet the system requires that a fair selection for a class 8 graduate to go to secondary school, they must all sit for that exam. Climbing that tree, that is the KCPE exam. Climbing that tree, it is the KCSE exam. Identify situations when learners are treated unequally instead of equally. Equality, equity, and fairness. Identify learning situations where the learners are treated equally instead of unequally. Teachers, I believe these are not new vocabularies. We talk of equity, we talk of equality, we talk of fairness. Sometimes we bring even the aspects of gender, our boys and girls. Affirmative action, what is it meant to achieve? Is it fairness? Is it equity? Is it equality? Whether it is in the education sector or elsewhere. What is the impact of such unfair treatment on a student's learning? I have said that let us interrogate these 4 activities, and I'm sure we are going to report back when we meet on Wednesday. And let us move on to this slide. When we talk about inclusive education, is it about looking at the ways our schools, classrooms, programs, and lessons are designed? We are saying that we need to make the ground level for all the learners so that they can exploit their potential, so that no learner is left behind. Whether they are environmental smart, whether they were what Madam Emily described, the 8 kind of learning capabilities, where are they? So we are saying that we need to look at all these so that none of our children is left behind. In every learning program, every child should be able to participate and at the end of the day say that they have learned. So we are saying that inclusion is all about finding different ways of teaching so that classrooms actively involve all children, and none should be left behind. Remember, we said that we just need to look at our learners, we assess them, even through observation we can tell that this belongs here. This one needs to be exposed to this kind of learning experiences, if at all they are going to learn differently from this other group of learners, that they are capable of this path, and therefore these are the kind of learning experiences that I should expose them to. These are the teaching methodologies. These are the pedagogical approaches that I should use for this group of learners, so that at the end of it, we can say that they have learned. Remember, it is all about us as the teachers to know our learners better, to know or to understand their potentials. And the moment we get to understand their potential, then we can be able to nurture them all the way to the end. So we are saying that even as a teacher, you need to develop friendships, relationships, and mutual respect between the learners themselves, between you and the learners, so that at the end of the day, the relationship between us and the learners, between the teachers themselves, like I have said, we should engage ourselves in building capacity of each other. What I know better, I show you. What you know better, let us exchange, so that we don't remain all the same. We are also saying that inclusion is that philosophy based on the belief that all learners are respected for their unique capabilities and should be an integral part of learning within the regular classroom. Whether it is environmental oriented, those that are doing well in languages, those are doing well in mathematics, it is a matter of us respecting their uniqueness and dwelling on that uniqueness to build experiences that enable every learner to learn. So we are saying that inclusion ensures equitable access to learning for those learners identified with special needs. Remember, we are saying that no child should be left behind, irrespective of their backgrounds, whether it is their special needs in terms of physique, in terms of other facets of life. We are saying that we need to place our learners to others' education settings. Whenever we need to place learners to other education setting, we must justify that this is on the basis of the individual learning needs. For instance, when we are placing our children in special schools, they must go through the right assessment in our Ict centers, so that at the end of the day, nobody will say that the child was placed out of malice or something. If it is a mental need, then the child need to be in an MH or a mentally handicapped category of school. If a child has been assessed to have visual issues, then they will be placed in the right school. But we are saying that it must be justified, that it is on the basis of their individual learning needs, so that this child is not left behind. Also, we are saying that inclusive education needs to be a collaborative effort among the parents, guardians, or whoever is taking care of the learner, the community itself, as the teachers, and even the government. And I'm sure we know the role of each of these persons. And we are saying that for this inclusive education to take place, there must be a common learning environment that all students from different backgrounds, all children with different abilities can be given an opportunity to learn, And that is why even our own schools, we have always encouraged that we should even have the aspect of special needs children. Even if we do not have them in our schools, they should be in our mind when we are doing the structures in our schools. We always say that sometimes not every physically handicapped person was born physically handicapped. Even as teachers, sometimes we find ourselves on wheelchairs. Even as teachers, sometimes we find ourselves using crutches simply because we are caught up here and there by accident. So again, we are saying that we need not to leave any child behind. This is a pictorial representation or illustration of equality and equity. And we are saying that when we treat everybody equally, we treat them the same way. There is no fairness. As much as we want to see what is happening in the field where there is a game, this young boy here cannot see. But look at the grown-up. He has all the advantage. But when we look at equity, we want to treat everybody fairly so that they can all be engaged. When the father gives the young one the stool, the child can also see the field. And therefore, nobody is a disadvantage. In the same way, in a school setup, this is the way to go. That depending on the learner's capability, let us ensure that none is left behind. If my number one is very good in mathematics, number two is fairly good, but I have a time taker when it comes to mathematics, why should I not give him more time to ensure that they are all at par? Because at the end of the day, even the time taker, we have said they have their potential and they are going to learn. It's only that they are taking more time. Allow me to move to another slide, which is an activity. And here we have representation of classrooms. Classroom 1, classroom 2, classroom 3, and classroom 4. And the different colors depict a classroom setup where we have learners from different backgrounds, learners with different potentials and capabilities. So at times, as teachers, this is exactly what we do when we are teaching, that we forget that we do not have a homogeneous class where all learners are the same, a homogeneous class where the learners are the same. And that is where we treat it. And therefore, we concentrate so much in doing things the same way. And when we do things the same way, it means that we are locking out learners with different capabilities. They no longer become part of our class. They are just there. They are just there. This is another classroom setup whereby a teacher does not even bother, but concentrates on what we call the teachables. Remember the kind of languages teachers we use, teachables and non-teachable. But we have said there is no learner that cannot learn. Some will only take more time than others. But we dwell so much on this group that we are saying we can move with, and this other group, which could be talented differently, we are in mathematics, for instance, but they are good in science. And therefore, what we do is that we group them together and somehow throw them at the corner of the classroom, and we continue teaching the blues, as you can see the colors depicting. Another teacher will identify the group, yes, incorporates them in the class, but they are still isolated in a way. Look at my classroom number 3. Yes, they are within the class. I have not really isolated them like in the second case, but even when they are within this group, somehow they still feel isolated because they have been kept together. And I believe this is what we are doing as teachers, whereby we group our learners, the best to do, the performers, and non-performers. When we do this, we are disadvantaging these that we call non-performers only because we are not patient enough with them to give them time, to give them our attention. Maybe that is what they need. Maybe they are from difficult backgrounds. They need to be shown love and care so that they match with the others. But look at our 4th classroom. This is the way to go. That as a teacher, I give all my learners the opportunity. I give them the attention that they so require. And you can see the way the colors are mingling, that the red, yellow, purple, blues are all over in the classroom. This way, if we do this setup of a class, it means that my blues can be able to also assist the others and that none is left behind. Remember, we are saying that we are nurturing every learner's potential. If I may go back to our slide, we are being told to study the picture. I want us to really interact with the pictures and interpret them further other than what I have just described. I'm doing this because of time, the interest of time. And this is another pictorial illustration of the different approaches that we have been using over the years. We exclude, they are out there, and thus we are learning here inside. Segregation, we put them in their own group at a corner and we continue teaching. Integration, they are within the class, but somehow they still feel different. And this is what inclusion is all about. Just what we have just discussed when we are using the circles classrooms. So when there is inclusion, whether a learner is handicapped, whether one is visually impaired, so long as they can learn, then we give them the opportunity to learn. So we are saying that inclusive education is carried out in a common learning environment, only that we are acknowledging our different able learners, our learners from different backgrounds, and we provide the friendly, safe environment where all can learn. We are also saying that a common learning environment is not a place where students with intellectual disabilities or other special needs learn in isolation from their peers. They need to be part and feel part of that classroom setup. So in all our resources, we need to take care that every learner can access, whether it is our libraries, whether it is our performance theaters, our playgrounds, are they friendly? Teachers, let us interact with the safety manual for Kenyan schools, and we are going to note what we are really saying so that we can put it in practice in our own schools. This is the reflection for the day. We have looked at all these competence-based curriculum, 21st century learners, and let us reflect. What have I learned when all this is concerned? CBC, the 21st century learner and how they are learning. And number 2, I need to learn more about what? This is for your homework. That's for you, our homework. And for the Kemi virtual platform, we have our extended activity. We have our extended activity whereby with your subject panelists at the school level, plan and implement a learning task that will involve application of the multiple intelligence theory. That one we learned very well. The activity may involve one or more classes. So back to our schools, as subject panelists, do that task. Number 2, take photos or recordings of the activity and post them on your e-portfolio. Remember, we said that this is how we are being assessed. Are we learning? And at the end of the day, remember, this will be used for your certification. And number 3, in your reflective journal, based on your experience in the activity above, put your thoughts on the effectiveness of the multiple intelligence theory and how it can be applied in a classroom setup, in a classroom situation. I believe majority of us, we are at 200 now, and people are asking about notes. I believe Sir Elvis is going to share the notes with us. So let us really take the work that we have been given seriously, and may I call it the end. Thank you very much. May God bless all of us. Good evening. Elvis, let us have somebody maybe, or Emily closing the word of prayer.
Okay, let us pray. Our Father and our God, in the name of Jesus Christ, we come before thy presence with thanksgiving in our hearts. We thank you for who you are, finding it worth, Jehovah, that this platform should be an engagement that will carry our nation forward, to be even at par with other countries that embraced TPD long time. We want to thank you for our teachers that have taken the bother and even the sacrifice of their time to train for this very noble program. We want to thank you so much. We pray that you meet with them wherever they are at their point of need. And God, that they may continue to appreciate this program, because it is the way to go. And it's been the way to go for the many countries that we have in the world that are ahead of Kenya. So we want to thank you for their families, that even as they rest tonight, you'll protect them, even as you prepare them for the other training for Wednesday. We want to trust God shall keep us well. We thank you and we bless you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Good night to all of us.
Thank you and good night.